and also for security issues. You have that away from our student population. And it's away from our student population for drones and things like that. So it would not be in the school. And you said the air exchange. I know, you know, the mobile home type things have their own facilities that they have to monitor their own air and everything else. And there are ways to get people through, you know, with disabilities onto these vehicles. So, I mean, I think that would be a much better use of space instead of knocking walls out of Maple Street or something like that. And that's just my take on it. I don't know if anyone else has a feel for that.
Thank you. Is there anybody else who has a comment that hasn't spoken yet? Just give everybody on. Mr. Kemp, you have the floor.
I'm trying to get an idea of just how much of an operation we're contemplating here, and I would like very much to see one of the existing sites. There's a reference in here for this one vendor of having 5 permanent locations, and a discussion in here about going from 6,000 visits in 2002 to 62,000 visits in 2011. If you divide by 5, that's 12. 5 into 62. I can't imagine. That's over 5. That's over, well, in the school year, it's more. Anywhere from 1,000 to 1,500 visits. I don't know what his definition of a visit is, but if there were 62,000, yeah, visits, patient visits, okay, at 5 locations, that's significant. And I think we need to see just how, I mean, where would they park, as an example? And it's within 5 days, not 7. And it's within the school day, not 24 hours. So the compression of these visits isn't within a, you know, unless I'm not understanding what their 62,000 consists of. But in any case, this is bigger than we had any idea. And for better or for worse, we need to understand a whole lot more. And I would suggest that 1 or 2 board members, and I guess it defaults to the facilities committee, to go look at a few of these sites to see what it is. I don't care who goes, you know, but we need to know a lot more.
Thank you, Mr. Kemp. There was a proposed motion. I don't know if you wish to make any type of a motion, or if there's just a request for additional guidance. What's your pleasure? Ms. Coolidge.
Well, since the suggested motion is only to go ahead with the RFP.
Could you please put your mic closer?
The motion is only to go ahead with the RFP.
Request for proposals.
There have been many suggestions about items that we want to see in the RFP. We can make decisions about site visits once we see what the RFPs look like. There may be other vendors who have sites that we would want to see. I wouldn't want to just go visit the sites that this particular vendor has put together. If there are other vendors who have sites that we can see, I think we should treat them all equally. So I would like to make a motion that the Board of Education approve the request for proposal for a school-based health clinic at Rockville High School and Maple Street School.
Thank you. I have a motion, and I have a second. Debate on the motion. Mrs. Bush.
I really think that it is a good idea. I think our community would benefit from it if it's done right and the way our community needs it. So I just encourage you to put as much detail into the RFP so that it would fit the needs of our town.
Thank you. Is there any other discussion, debate? Seeing none, we'll call the motion to a vote by a show of hands. All in favor of the motion? And those opposed? I'll show 2 opposed. The motion does carry.
some kind of follow-on motion if necessary. I mean, what is our next step? Are we going to go take a look at a few sites with proposed vendors or what?
With the request for proposal, I would suggest that as part of, once we get those proposals back, we evaluate those and then do those site visits before agreeing to proceed to the next step. A proposal is exactly that. Here's our way of how we would handle your request. And based on the feedback that we get from these different vendors that would reply to that, I would suggest at that point it would be appropriate to set up site visits, do inquiries of, whoever we want to find out how successful those programs are. If we feel that that's important, whatever, I think that would be the time to do it.
Well, actually, I respectfully disagree. I think we need to see a couple of sites before RFPs are even received or put out. I mean, I don't have any idea what we're getting ourselves into here. I'm not opposed to it. I'm not for it. I don't see any harm in taking a look at a couple of existing sites somewhere, wherever they are. They're in Manchester and East Hartford, so we don't have to go very far, wherever they may be. And that would help the people putting together the specs of the RFP a little more substance to what they'll be asking for.
Are you making some type of a motion to the effect that you'd like to see the board or some representatives of the board do a site visit prior to putting together the RFP?
Sure. That sounds like a good motion, Dean. Thanks.
So that is your motion. Do I have a second on that request? Ms. Bush.
I will second it, and I would accompany you if my schedule was available.
Okay.
So I have a motion and I have a second to conduct some site visits to get together some additional information in order to put together the RFP. Discussion or debate on the motion. Mr. Person.
Are you just planning on visiting the one that came back in the RFI?
I don't know. I'm just trying to get to a next step here before nothing moves forward. I only know of this one vendor right now. If there's another one, I'll be happy to go to any other one vendor's location.
Ms. Goldich. I'm sorry.
This just happens to be the only vendor who responded to the RFI. We know that there are other vendors who have called and presumably will be submitting RFPs, full proposals. I think we should wait to get all the proposals and then schedule our site visits. And treat them, as I said, treat them all equally. I think we might give one vendor who did not get a site visit, if that vendor is not subsequently chosen, grounds for objection.
Thank you. Other discussion, Ms. Sarno.
Well, the board just passed a motion to move forward with the RFP process. So for board members to visit a facility, I don't understand how that's going to influence the RFP because Mr. Picaro and Mrs. Buell are writing the RFP, so they seem totally disconnected to me. Board members doing a site visit prior to the RFP being written, I don't understand. You're going to come back and tell Mr. Picaro and Mrs. Buell how to write the RFP. You just approved the RFP.
No, I don't.
Mr. Kim.
I don't really care who goes. I mean, whether
No,
it's.
it's not the who goes, it's the timing. I'm sorry.
What Ms. Arnn is saying is if board members are going out and looking at these sites and administration is in the process of writing up the RFP, where is their connection there? They've got the framework for the RFP based on the RFI. And I believe what I'm hearing Ms. Arnn saying is, are we putting the cart before the horse saying we want to go and do site visits when we don't, is there some type of attachment to the RFP process? I believe that's what I'm hearing. Ms. Fisher.
I agree with Mrs. Goldich that after we get the RFPs back, then we would go look at sites for whoever submits them and then decide if we like the way they do.
If we decide to even move to that next step.
Right.
So. Other discussion?
All right, look, I don't think we need to beat this up very much and vote on it. I think we want to see somebody go take a look at a few of these sites sooner than later. And so I'll withdraw my motion so long as it's understood that that's going to happen.
Motion's been withdrawn, and the administration has heard your comments there, so I think they understand what you're looking for. Moving along.